Fellas, what's happening? Look, we ain't got a lot of time, but we got enough time to help one another. You understand? It's your boy Lean here. You already know the audience, the demographic, 18 to 44 male. Let's chop it up a little bit about what we see, what we observe, what we understand to be true. There are several ways, many ways in which women disregard us, in which women show us, in which women expose to us what we want, need, desire, what we don't want, don't need, and desire on a day-to-day basis. Simple. I have 5 things that I am confirming that we see on a day-to-day basis with the opposite sex as we're trying to deal with, tolerate, understand, learn from, and matriculate with them throughout this journey. One of them, they take us for granted. Yes, bro, I am confirming that I see what you see. I experienced, past tense, what you experienced and being taken for granted. A lot of times there are women who act like they have this super long laundry list of men, options, and opportunities. You often hear women say, "Oh, I've been engaged before," or, "I've been engaged several times and I still got the rings." They say these throw out ad hominems with as much emotional strength as they think that they received from it, like it was validating to their particular ego. Again, I see what you see. Some of the red flags, most of these are red flags. It's going to be a red-flag-athon per se, but I see what you see in that. And what I will tell you practically is that's one of the things that helps you vet when you see a woman that takes men for granted. Shh. Try to be quiet, my love. Figure it out. Taking men for granted, like if her dad was a passive aggressive dad, she'll only call her dad when she needs money. Fast forward, she'll do that to you. There are a lot of women like that. They're super, super focused on the individual guy at the moment, at the time period, in that particular season. Maybe because she was vulnerable in her last breakup and this guy is presenting himself as the total opposite. But whatever have you, there are so many ways for us to see women taking men for granted. The women that simply don't say thank you after a man that they don't even know opens the door for them. Women who don't tip male waiters. These type of things will show you and confirm to you that she's taking men for granted. Even your time, having wasteless conversations, which is segueing into the next one, having wasteful conversations about nothing, just expressing an emotional opinion, being subjective about any and everything, complaining to be kind of babysat instead of complaining to find a solution, or complaining to be open to solutions so you don't have to complain. But a lot of time, these are the type of women that you can't even agree to disagree with. You either agree or I'm gonna block you. These are the number 2, poor communicators. 90% of the women you're going to meet between the ages of 18 to 44 are going to be poor communicators. It goes hand in hand with accountability. Most people who are accountable, try to figure it out, mama. Try to figure it out. Most people who are accountable tend to be great communicators. Most people who are forced to be accountable, like men are usually good communicators. And we're not talking about motivational speakers. We're not talking about, the preachers with 30,000 for a congregation. Those people who are habitually able to get in front of people and profess a message or profess some sight of motivation. Not those type of communicators, great public speakers. I'm talking about the regular everyday person who can just be honest to themselves and other people, who can be forthright with the things that come off their tongue, understanding that they speak life and death. These are the great communicators. You often experience where a woman will tell you she wants you to be vulnerable. Then the moment you be vulnerable with her, she loses respect for you. She loses her hormonal desire for you because she feels as though you're not being tough enough. The moment you cry in front of your woman or be vulnerable in front of your woman, she will lose respect for you. But she just literally had said that she wants you to be comfortable with being vulnerable and being honest with her. So these are the type of things that you are probably experiencing, but just understand ultimately you're not the only one. You have women out here, in their captions, they say one thing, but then in their videos, they say another. For example, you can see a woman, you see one of her reels or her stories, and it's more about how men ain't shit. But then in one of her next videos, she's real long-winded about how men have this ability to improve, but they're just not. Like, are you trying to teach us and reach us, or are you trying to completely eviscerate us and remove us from your presence? You have the double-minded and the triple-minded woman where she communicates one thing on social media, but then at work she communicates a whole nother faux sophisticated thing. But then at home she communicates a whole nother pseudo faux sophisticated social media goddess bad bitch. So you got all of these different lifestyles in the realm of one person. You have all of this organized confusion, and a lot of times they project it onto us, not realizing that's one of the biggest turnoffs. And that's one of the main reasons why people have so many talking points. That's one of the main reasons why a lot of communities have been divided on men and women relationships, because of the poor communicators who think that they're so logical, who think that they're so poignant, who think that they're so specific, but they're really literally drowning us in generalization. Number 3, the dismissive woman. The woman who always wants to give advice but never take any. The woman who always wants you to do for her but never does for you. The woman who is always receiving but never giving. The dismissive woman who barely can hold a conversation longer than 2 minutes before there's an argument brewing. The moment that you disagree with her, you could see her eye contact start to wane. You could see her eye contact start to wither. You could see now her picking up her phone. When she doesn't get her way verbally, when she doesn't get her way, there's always this reactivity. There's always a face being made. There's always eyebrows being moved. There's always a frown being created. There's always a sound or onomatopoeia being curated when you're talking to a young lady who is being very dismissive. It all goes in the realm of accountability. It all goes in the realm of what you actually just said as a poor communicator. And a lot of times, instead of making the corrective decisions, they make the incorrective decisions and prolong what we would deem as bullshit. So again, you have the women that take us for granted. You have the women who communicate to us poorly. You have the women who are dismissive, and you have the women who are self-consumed. I was talking to one of my homegirls the other day. She had posted something on social media. Again, I know her to be a very spirit-laced, God-focused, God-fearing woman, right? But there's this juxtaposition with all of these conservative and classic and traditional women where they're now having to mount themselves and pedestal themselves within the ranges of the world. They have to present themselves within the dynamic of the world in order to be seen. The natural women, and how they feel like they've been excommunicated because of the BBL trends. So these type of women, while they might mean no harm, they're so self-consumed. Like, they don't even know how to approach men without sending some Joel Osteen link or TD Jakes link or Kenyon Anderson or Kenyon Henderson, Keon Henderson link. These are the type of women who They're so self-consumed that when they don't receive the attention, when they don't receive the accolades, when they don't receive the press run that a lot of other women are receiving, they become hyper independent. And they think that, oh, self-love, feminism, stand up for yourself, self-care, girl, it's all about you. They think that that's the way to go. But ultimately, the hyper independence is, in all actuality, a trauma response. And that trauma response is causing them to necessarily hate the very dynamic that they're attracting. So because you're so self-consumed, right? And the things that you present that are helping you in your self-consumption, this is where you gravitate the men or the women that you elect to like. When you put yourself in this hyper independence realm, you're chasing away all the spirits that were there to help you. When you put yourself in this hyper independent realm, that's just what it is. It's more independence. It's lending itself to people who are not going to be around you for the long term. Because you're so self-consumed. We could feel it. We could see it. And I was trying to tell my homegirl, like, hey, buckle down. Get into the depth of the work. Get deeper into the work. You know, don't just post some cachet contrast of what you're mentally going through. Whereas it's, you know, should I just live off the grid, go to a remote island and say F it? Sometimes our efforts are not rewarded with the results that we think. So we think it's us. When necessarily, I got an amen. When we think it's us, when necessarily it's not always you. It is your environment. It is the time period. It is the modernity that's going on around you. So we beat ourselves up through this hyper independence, and we carry that stench of double-mindedness, of triple-mindedness, even if you're not in that space. It carries the stench because you have such a strong hold on your subjectivity that you can't be objective. So if there are people, if there are women, men who you see presenting that they want to be a wife, that they want to be a one-woman man, that they want to have a family, that they want to get married, that they want to be in it for the long term, committed to an individual. If they want, desire, and need all of these things, right? But they're not moving toward them. They're moving away from them, from also projecting hyper independence. You have to stay in your confirmation. You have to stay in your power as a man. Maybe try to communicate to her. That's what she's giving off. But ultimately, you have to be ready to walk away because it's a red flag. You never want to get caught up in someone's psychological whirlwind because that might be the order and sequence of how they manage their life. But their life is not your life. And at times we'll enter somebody's organized confusion only to experience more chaos than we would have had if we would have just stayed outside of their fence. Caution, watch out. Trespassers not welcome, no solicitors. If we would have just stayed out of the fence, we wouldn't have been involved in that organized confusion or confusion period. Because see what happens once you get caught up in the whirlwind and tornado of somebody else's organized confusion, especially a woman, she starts expecting and feel entitled for you to organize it. And then she will measure your manhood based on if you're able to organize her personal confusions or not. You dig what I'm saying? So, fifth and finally, being insufferable. Enough said. A lot of women, I talk to friends about this, like, it's interesting to see when a woman is with a man, right? She does just enough. Most women, they do just enough to get by, right? But let's say that man leaves. She's left all on her own. She doesn't have the major village that most women do have, grandmothers, aunties, and whatnot. She will immediately turn on that OnlyFans. She will immediately start selling that cocaine. She will start carrying that cocaine from state to state. She will go back to school, get multiple degrees. She will go to Atlanta or go to Florida, one of these famous places where sex work is major, and become a stripper. You've seen these type of women who will go to the ends of the earth when they're on their own, only to create captions with the redemptive essence, but really with the revengeful undertone. Redemptive essence projected in these captions with the revengeful undertone, right? Oh, when I was big, you ain't want me. Now I'm small, now you own me. Stuff like that. You have a lot of that, whereas women are carrying the trauma from past relationships, past situationships, past bust downs, and they're making the current man pay for it. They're making the current prospect pay for it, creating an insufferable time period between you and this person. When you see that, fellas, hit the bricks. If she can't let go of past trauma, past situationships, and we're not being betas about it, we're not being bro bitches about it, we're being very, very classy. Keep it classy. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have arguments. We're not going to agree on everything. We're two different people. That's all well, fine, and dandy. But what we're not going to do is to continue to promote and project, as if walking around, moving around, thinking like a hyena is okay. It's not. It's not. And it definitely won't be tolerated nor accepted. So again, fellas, here's your confirmation for these 5 dynamics that you may see from a woman that will create a red-flag-athon. I don't know how many you in your particular life and lifestyle that you need to see from our counterparts, but here are 5 red flags that we both go through that can show us some parts and pieces and parcels of what this woman is about. A woman that takes you for granted, a woman that's a poor communicator, a woman that's being very dismissive, a woman that is self-consumed, and a woman that is being insufferable. These are the women you should watch out for, watch yourself for, and be willing to walk away from. It's me, it's you, it's us.